image. All right. Well, welcome to tonight's call. We got about a minute before 8 o'clock here, or 7 o'clock. And I'm very glad that you're on tonight. And welcome to those that are on YouTube. I might be able to see your questions. I'll see if I can work that out. If you want to if you want to ask questions and be with us on the go-to meeting, you can go to the Destination Freedom website and log into the go-to meeting, and then that way you'll be able to come in and interact more, or I should say better than on YouTube. But we wanted to record that, so let me just go ahead and record this on for this particular call. Let me just hit this here. All right, so thank you so much for being on tonight, and the purpose of this hour, and tonight I'm not going to do an 8 o'clock hour that has that we digress into something else. I think with the activity that we've had on the website and what have you, there we are. I'm sure we're going to have plenty of questions for people, and I wanted to be able to allow everybody to be able to get their questions answered. And that way everybody's informed and can make good decisions. So I apologize for this particular setting. I'm not at my office. I'm actually in my home, and because the office is under construction, and so my office is all torn up, and they're building the new location we're going to be in, and so that's kind of up in the air. So it's really a weird time. We're implementing some of our new things, and then the office is going to be not available until the end of the month. So that's all right. So let's just make sure I got some sound there before we move on. Let's see here. So can you hear the audio at all or no? Okay, some people can hear. So that's good. Well, hopefully the go-to meeting will be able to handle the the bandwidth or what have you, and who knows how, depending on our system here or where have you, whether that's going to facilitate. But I appreciate your feedback if you can or can't hear. So I will just ask that you mute yourself if you're not speaking. And a couple of things I'll do some with respect to this particular call. I'll ask that you would not side talk. Okay, if you can't try here, I totally. Okay. Well, that may be the possibility is to be open and close the app if I can't. Some people can hear, so I apologize for that. And I'm going to get to all your questions, so I appreciate for your patience. What I'm going to ask that you not do is what we call side talk in this particular venue. Now, I'm going to be answering people's questions, and that's the purpose of this call. So I'm going to ask that it's not, we're not in a place to where you're going to share and teach everybody, and you've got a lot to share and all that stuff. That's fine if you do. I would recommend that you create your own YouTube channel, invite people in, and then that way they can share with them all, that kind of stuff. So it's really will be distracting if you're sharing and then I have to read what you're writing based upon whether I'm going to answer a question or not, and we'll kind of stop everything. It's like talking in the middle of a class. So that's the best way is for you to self-govern and not share with others, even though you might have something a lot to share. If you're on and talking with me and we're doing some back and forth, that might be an opportunity to talk about some things if I ask you or I'm looking for some information. That'll be good. As far as the video goes, you're welcome to be on and all that stuff. And so it's hopefully I won't be distracted by that, but I appreciate people that are on. Again, mute yourself if you're not talking. So again, thanks so much for that. We're going to get into some Q&A. And then if and then I'll talk a little bit about, or I'll open up and talk a little bit about what's going on and what people can expect for tonight. So again, thanks so much for being on. My name is Christopher Gronsky. This is Destination Freedom. We're live on YouTube, and this recording will be on YouTube and available for later on. We are recording this in the GoTo meeting as kind of a backup. And tonight's call, we're going to we're going to let me just ask this: if you don't mind, if you have your video, if you would blank yourself out, that would be great, because if I'm looking at you, or if you're not just a talking head, then sometimes if you got things going on in the background, it's a little distracting. So I appreciate that. So this is Destination Freedom. We have our website that makes available our passport workshop and our full passport process. We're processing people's PayPal transactions. We take silver and gold, precious metal, and also cryptocurrency. Those things you'll have to do transactions with me personally, so I can help you facilitate those kind of transactions. I did want to mention about PayPal, okay? Because a couple of people that have done transactions in PayPal, they've done the transactions as goods and services, and I can't do that with PayPal because I have not given PayPal a social security number. I've given them my W-9, so I have to do PayPal in a little different way. And so it's a private transaction. So if you're going to do a PayPal transaction, that's going to be as friends and family. So if you do inadvertently send us a payment and it's goods and services, I will immediately refund it, and you can just do it again as friends and family. I don't know how long that would take. Usually, if I haven't received the funds yet, I think it's quicker to do a refund. But there were a couple clients that had paid and I'd already received the funds. I think that has to come out as an e-check through the bank or something. It'll come through PayPal, but I apologize for that. But anyway, we've talked to those people and then we've worked it out. So thanks so much for that. I appreciate your patience with this time. I have my son is working with me in these processes. He's answering emails, and he's dealing with some of the traffic we have coming in from those that have seen the video on Dollar Vigilante's video, different sites and things like that. And we really appreciate Jeff Berwick in that interview. That's really exciting to be a part of that. I'm going to answer questions concerning some of the things I talked about. Other things that I alluded to on there, we can also get those questions answered as well. So I'm really grateful for that, and we're really excited about this new community that we're a part of. We're a part of a number of different communities, but this will be a new community that'll come along, and I think we're going to be able to help people a lot. One thing I want to address, and that was that I had mentioned to Jeff, was the title of the video is Tax Rebellion. I just want you to know we don't do any tax rebellion. If you're looking for tax rebellion, I suggest that you not pay taxes and then just have the IRS pursue you and all that stuff. And then you can not pay them and rebel. That'll be perfect for that. But we don't do any of that stuff there. Everything that we do is according to the tax code, and that we teach you to take a look at the tax code, what it says, and to understand who has that income tax liability. Okay, and so for the record, I want you to know that all U.S. citizens, regardless of where they live, and resident aliens have an income tax liability and an obligation to file and pay. That is what the IRS website says. That's what their documents say. We say that as well. Like I said, all U.S. citizens. And we'll talk a little bit about that tonight, because the State Department defines U.S. citizen, as well as the IRS, by the 14th Amendment. And that's part of why we do what we do. So that is just a reality. And so we're not asking those that have an income tax liability. We encourage those people to file and pay and to do exactly what the law states for them to do. Okay. And so I want you to know that we don't recommend people that if they have an income tax liability, we recommend that they do file and pay. And those that don't have an income tax liability, well, then that's a different matter. And we'll talk a little bit about that tonight too. So anyway, and those, with eyes to see and ears to hear can understand what I'm talking about. And we will talk specifically about that. I don't want to do anything encoded messages and things like that. And we're going to cover probably a number of different subjects tonight. Not only talking about passport process, both the workshop and the full passport process, which is where we do the paperwork. We probably talk about the website and how it's working and what you can expect and the timing. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We may digress and also talk about debt discharge and what that looks like. Also, there are a number of Australian and Canadian citizens, if you will, that have come into the space. I'm going to answer questions specifically about that so that we can be some assistance to you. We deal with Americans worldwide. We typically are not dealing with Canadians or Australians, but I am aware that there are people who have some remedies in that area. We're interested in giving you that kind of support. I don't usually refer people in which I don't understand or agree with the remedies. I won't forward that kind of information on, but we'll make those determinations, give you that kind of support because we care about you and want those things to work for you. So that was answering one of those things with respect to the Canadian citizens. What I'm going to do is we've gotten emails, and on the website there is a contact us form that can be filled out. And so another number of Canadians and Australians have asked questions about that. We're going to combine those emails together. We're going to do a specific group email about that. And so we may set up a call to talk specifically about that for you. Not that we have a remedy, but at least to let you know what we know. And I do have some suggestions that you might look into, and that may give you some support. Okay, so that's one of those things. There was on the YouTube channel, it says, hey, what do you say about these guys say sovereign citizens is this lost cause? So that's a good starting question about sovereign citizens. That language, we don't use that language at all in anything that we do. If you want to understand about what the federal government thinks about sovereign citizen, then you can go to the FBI's website and then type in sovereign citizen, and you'll read a page all about what they feel about sovereign citizens, what that is. In the state citizenship class, we talk specifically about what that is, at least as far as the way the federal government deals with sovereign citizen. The idea or the reality that the people are sovereign is well established in American jurisprudence. Okay, sovereign is nothing more than something that's on the same level as each other. Okay, sovereign is so if you're talking about people being sovereign with respect to each other, that's one concept. If you're talking about people, governments being sovereign with respect to each other, that's a thing. In the class, I handle the concept of authority and sovereignty and what that is. And so, because sovereignty is the concept of separate and distinct. That's what sovereign is. Okay, so that's part of that. So it says they say you should learn law and go to court, even though they don't. So that's a good concept. The people, there are people in our community and the freedom community that are really after like studying the law and all that. And of course, when you're dealing with government, you would like to know what is what governs government. And so it's very good to understand statute and code that governs the government. But typically, generally, statute and code in general doesn't govern you. And of course, when I'm talking about that, generally speaking, we're talking about certainly the federal government, we're talking about state governments and all. And we're going to say the statute and code doesn't govern you. If you or something that you're doing is in government, then of course statute and code is going to govern that in places in which you are in or tied to or doing something with respect to government. Then of course you're going to be a part of that. Government is always public. Public is always governmental. Private is not. And so, and a lot of times people don't really know what private is. All corporations are governmental in nature. Okay. And so there is no such thing as a private corporation. That's just a misnomer. All government corporations are tied to government on some level, and therefore are taxed and regulated. So that's just part of that. Then that's a good question. Let's see. So anyway, so that's some of that. Some of the questions that are going to come up, I'll answer, and we may digress, and hopefully I won't repeat questions and such as that. But there was a question that said, does the full passport process include videos and such as that? The full passport process doesn't include videos for that process because what we have in the passport workshop, we do directly with you. Everything that's in the workshop, we're going to handle with you personally. So there's nothing for you in that manner. With everyone that takes the passport workshop and that does the full passport process, the class that we have, the state versus federal citizenship class, is for the full passport client is available for them at no extra cost. It's included in the price. The state citizenship class is required before you can take the passport workshop. Okay, once you've taken that class, then both passport processes have other workshops available to them, and that is what we call the alignment workshop, which deals with documents and such with driver's license, voter registration, jury duty. All those concepts are handled in the alignment workshop. There is a W8 and W9 workshop that deals with those documents when you're in business and you're being asked for tax information such as that. We have those tax forms specifically for the state citizen. Then there's an IRS 1445 workshop, and that deals with when there's real estate transactions. Not as much when you're buying, although there's information that you want to make sure is in the record as you're buying, that you're not acquiring a United States real property interest. And then if you're selling and you're receiving cash, they typically are looking for tax information so that they can report to IRS. We have documents that support those kind of transactions. So those workshops are included in both passport processes, the workshop and the full passport process in which we do the paperwork. So that's for some of that. So a little about the cases mentioned with Jeff about I'll come back to that. If I don't answer your questions, then be sure to speak up and I'll make sure that I do them. I want to make sure that there's questions that have come through the website. Let's see here. There's a question, Florida residents on Social Security with tax deferred IRA. Is this for me? Florida resident. It really, I don't really, when you say Florida resident, just tells me that you're residing in Florida. It doesn't tell me whether you're a citizen of Florida, because a Florida resident, when I'm living in Florida for about a month and a half or so, I'm residing in Florida during that time as well. But that I'm a citizen of New Hampshire. So if you're talking about a state, Florida state citizen, then with respect to Social Security, tax deferred, all that stuff, if you've set that up as a federal citizen. And so therefore that paperwork is incorrect if you're going to reject that 14th Amendment citizen and claim your state citizenship. State citizenship is defined as habitation and domicile, not residency. You can have residencies all over the planet. Okay, when someone joins the military, they join at one particular place. That's their habitation domicile. That's where they would vote. That's where they'd be on jury duty. That's where they would have their driver's license. Okay, they can travel the world for 30 years, residing all over the planet. And so what matters is that place they intend to return to. That is that is what we're defining as what do you call habitation and domicile. So that's what that is. So when we're talking about being a Florida state citizen, now let me just say this: this is a lot of questions have come in about can I don't want to pay taxes, but I really love the government teat. I love those benefits. I love them. I want them. I paid in. I deserve my pacifier, my nipple, my whatever. It's like so. Yeah. Now listen. Yes, you can still receive welfare and all that. The problem with it is you have a tax obligation, and of course those are for federal citizens, Social Security or other welfare. Okay, and so we don't recommend that you be on those welfare programs if you're not looking to file and pay. Okay, my suggestion is all in or all out. You try to walk the line, you do so at your own peril. Okay, so that can be problematic. Okay, and so listen. So what I tell people that are on Social Security is what I say. Listen, how much you making in Social Security? What I'll do is I'll pay your Social Security. Okay, it'll be Christopher's Security, and so I'll give you everything that you need for the month. But I do require that you wear diapers for the whole year that I'm paying in. That way we're clear that you're my dependent and I'm taking care of you. Okay. So, if that offends your sensibilities, then I think you have a good conscience. I recommend that if you're a grown adult and Social Security is about minimum wage or whatever it is, I believe that by the time you get 65 years old or whatever it is, you should have enough intelligence and enough commitment to your liberty and your freedom that you could create wealth easily without having to be addicted to the pedophiles and what they're offering you, because they don't owe you a dime. Okay, not a thing. Okay, if you think they owe you Social Security, you've never read the Social Security Act. You believe politicians, but you've never read the Social Security Act. If you've been signed up for Social Security since you were a baby, a child, 16 years old, or whenever you got your first job, and then you've receiving benefit at 65 or whatever the case may be, and you've never read the 1935 Social Security Act, what hope do we have that that's where you're at? And so when I realized that I'm not a federal citizen and I was paying into Social Security and such as that, I was delighted not to receive a nickel from those pedophiles, okay, and the warmongers or the banksters or whatever it is. And just so you know and are clear, the income tax does not go to run the government, okay? The income tax, if you look up the Grace Commission, that was during the Reagan administration. Grace was the guy that had done this study on government waste. He said that not one nickel of the income tax goes to run the government. It's all taken up in interest payments and transfer payments of the debt. So basically, the IRS is a debt collection agency for the central bankers. That's what's going on. And, so I was delighted not to deal with that. So some of that's out there. So I wanted to mention that about that. So it's difficult to say. I mean, if you're really dependent upon Social Security and you don't feel that you can create any kind of wealth or help others make wealth while you benefit after you're helping them do that, and we're glad to help you understand how you can create wealth for yourself. Many people are employed and they want to do these processes. Listen to me carefully what I'm going to say next. Okay? No one is going to take a tax stand while being employed by a corporation. End of story, full stop. Okay? There is no remedy because the corporation is not going to risk an audit or dealing with the IRS on your behalf. Not going to happen. Maybe a small company in which you know the people or something like that. But the bottom line is, if they're withholding on your behalf because you have a W-4 form that you filled out for them, They are not going to, even though there are people that think that a revocation of election is a good remedy and that you stop paying. Every one of these people are paying into Social Security and don't even address that tax. That's still there. So if you think that you're not in that jurisdiction while still paying Social Security, then you don't understand the subject matter, and I don't recommend it. We don't want anybody to be harmed by the IRS. So we say all in or all out. We will help you deal with the company that you're with and contracting with them, but you cannot be employed. When you do these processes, you are unemployable. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. If you have companies and corporations which you're running and have employees, all that has to stop. Is that difficult? Depends on your attitude and what you. We're glad to help you. You can buy coaching counseling time for 6 months. We'll work with you every week and do and coach and counsel you in moving out of the public into the private. Okay, and so we're very excited about that, and so that's available, and we do assist that. But your business affairs are not going to be free until you're free first. So that's always there. So again, about Social Security, does it work and all? Listen, there are people that have done these processes that deal with Social Security. Let me tell you what the IRS can and does take Social Security, because one hand of the government's giving you the welfare, the other hand is taking it. And that's just simple, okay? But you don't want to be creating a tax liability for yourself by being on Social Security, okay? Irwin Schiff, you remember Irwin Schiff, Peter Schiff's dad? He went to prison, died in prison, because he didn't like that the IRS was taking his Social Security. Whatever he thought his remedy was, he was still on welfare. He wasn't making a distinction about who has the income tax liability. I want you to hear me carefully when I tell you that in our class, we will show you that the income tax is absolutely constitutional. If you don't understand how the income tax can be constitutional, you do not understand the power that's been delegated to the federal government by the Constitution. And that place specifically is Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. We handle that in great detail in the state citizenship class. And like I say many times to people, it's less important that you know or believe that you don't have an income tax liability. The most empowering thing that you can know is who does have an income tax liability and why, and how the federal government does that. When you understand that the income tax is constitutional, you'll be at peace knowing that you're not in that jurisdiction. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 says that the federal government, the United States, has exclusive legislative authority in all cases whatsoever in the 10 square miles District of Columbia. That includes territories, Guam, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, American Samoa. Also, government buildings, dockyards, forts, things like that. That would be national parks that are federally regulated. All that land and places in the states are also in federal jurisdiction. That includes the federal citizen and everybody that's ever come to America as an alien that's residing in the United States, the District of Columbia, on paper. All of them are in federal jurisdiction and are subject to, if you will, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 of the Constitution. Okay? And so that's their authority. If you don't like that, repeal Clause 17 or be done with the union altogether, because it's an absolute stinking mess. So here's my belief, okay? I believe that the federal government is absolutely upholding the Constitution, astonishingly. And so one of the things that we want you to understand when you understand federal jurisdiction is, how do federal gun laws match up with the Constitution? Well, just where I said. The federal citizen and resident alien, they're governed by Title 27, which is alcohol, tobacco, firearms. These are federal citizens. They're regulated because these 14th Amendment citizens are subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So those gun laws are specifically for U.S. federal citizens and resident aliens. State citizens that are not, federal citizens on paper or whatever, or in the District of Columbia and such as that, the Constitution supports them in the states, and the Second Amendment would apply. Okay, so most people are claiming to be a federal citizen, especially if they're doing income tax. And if you notice that when the federal government is dealing with any criminal in drugs, firearms, other things, they're always interested in them filling out tax forms in their criminal proceedings. Why is that? Because they fill out forms under penalty of perjury that are true and correct, that they are U.S. citizens and such as that. And we know, as we said in the Browns trial, that the IRS uses passport applications against people in court establishing their 14th Amendment citizenship. Okay? That's why we do paperwork, so that you can have paperwork sealed and signed by the Secretary of the United States demonstrating under penalty of perjury that you are not, that you're rejecting that citizen subject to the jurisdiction thereof, that federal citizen. Okay? I hope that makes sense to you. So we see that. Let's see here. Pete Hendricks cracking the code. He says that we're not liable for income tax forms, so it should show zero owed. Okay, that's a great question, okay? First of all, don't forget that Pete went to prison, okay? So I don't really recommend his remedies because they don't deal with jurisdiction. If you're filing a 1040 form, you are a federal citizen and a resident alien. All I would say to you, and look, zero is a number. You're not challenging jurisdiction if you're filing 1040 forms, okay? So if you're not liable for the income tax, you're not filling out 1040 forms. All you have to do is ask yourself, am I filling out tax forms in Germany? No, I'm not German. I'm not in Germany. So if you are a citizen of the District of Columbia, which is a 14th Amendment citizen, or that you say that you live or work in the United States, the District of Columbia, then you're going to have a tax liability. That's why we do all this paperwork, okay? Someone said, you can't seem to get in touch with us at our office. Yeah, so there has been an influx of a lot of people. We're not missing anything. If you've emailed us, we will get back with you as soon as we can. We are understaffed. I am looking for someone who lives in New Hampshire or near our office that would like to be an assistant, an office manager in that capacity. We are looking to bring somebody on that would like to do that. That can start off as part-time, but it'll end up as a full-time position. Okay. So, and of course, it won't be an employment gig. It'll be a contracting gig. That person will have to do these processes because, of course, we can't have federal citizens helping people, come out of the federal zone. That's incongruent with our stuff. So, well, anyway, that's what I feel about cracking the code. Okay. Someone says, does my wife have to go through the process as well? Well, it's always good that couples are together in these processes, and that's an important thing. If you haven't enrolled your spouse in these processes, then you need to back up, get on the same page the best you can, okay? If one spouse is going to be in that federal zone, then you're definitely going to have to separate your finances from each other because the IRS deals with husband and wife as same or interchangeable. Doesn't matter to them. If they go after, if one of them is not filing or creating a tax liability in some way, they will go after the other because that's the way the tax code reads. So you're definitely going to have a good separation between, husband and wife. That's why many of our clients, before doing these processes, many of them will set up a trust so they can move assets into trust so that they don't owe them, so that they're never the property isn't open for lien and all because it'll belong to something else. So, someone says, where can we find the price for the full passport assistance? Yeah, they're all on the website. On the website, there's tabs across the top. Now, it's a little different when you're on your phone. I think there's a box and the tabs show up in those boxes. But across the top, you have like conference call, counsel assistance, financial freedom. Then you will have classes and workshops, things like that. Now, so the full passport process falls under counsel assistance, and it's on the second tab down under that, that you can go there, and the price is there. It's $4,400 for the passport process. It includes all the workshops that we have. It does not include a debt discharge workshop. It doesn't include trusts. When we do the IRA, it may include the in the future. It may include the IRS. No, I think the IRS. We're gonna have an IRS class from soup to nuts for IRS. That may or may not be a part of that process. I think it will. And then we have. I think that's it that we have right now for that. So those are coming. Also, what's coming has been coming for a little bit, and that is our my book, State versus Federal Citizenship: The Unknown Choice. That I'm hoping to have that book completed by the summertime. It's $4,400 per person. So let me just say this with respect to families, okay? Yes, we do have discounts for families, significant discounts for the children. I don't know. I'll look at that, but yes, we have. Because the kids aren't necessarily going to do some of the workshops and all that stuff, so that's not going to be a part of it. So we will have significant discounts for the kids with respect to the works. It'll be just the passport process for them, and the spouse. Some of that will be, as far as the spouse goes, there may be discounts because we'll do some of that paperwork together, but it may be a couple $100s and stuff like that for the spouse and all that. And of course, both spouses would separately have access to these workshops. One of the reasons is for that is because we want the spouse to be in the same place. If the husband's doing it and they are sharing and stuff like that, it may harm another spouse, and we don't want that. Let me just tell you that this is not, these are serious matters, okay? Yes, people do go to prison for this kind of stuff, so we don't take that lightly. And so if your spouse isn't on the same page, that can be detrimental to you. It could be detrimental to our community. Certainly, it could be detrimental to me. We don't want to harm anybody. If somebody's in that jurisdiction, they should file and pay. Okay, and so that's important. Let's see. Isn't it all fraud since they did all this caps? No, I don't share that all capitalized stuff. Like, listen, I don't ascribe to anything with respect to straw man. If you're looking for that, I'm saying when you're doing these processes, those ideas will be a distraction, and they will be they will confound you with respect to these processes. Most of the time in the straw man, people are giving away their power. That's why we don't deal with that. Those processes have no facts or evidence to support their claim. Let me give you a word that settles most of that, and that is this. Listen to what I'm going to say. No one is obligated to fulfill any contract or agreement that's without their knowledge or against their will. Okay? I'll say it again. No one is obligated to fulfill any contract or agreement that's without their knowledge or against their will. Straw man is all about that. And then you disgrace your parents you dishonor them by saying they sold you into slavery and all that. It's illegal to sell your people in slavery unless, of course, you're like a member of Congress or something like that, or tied to the Epsteins. Then, yeah, you can sell people in slavery. And don't worry about all that trafficking and stuff, because the FBI, they're all on board with the trafficking and stuff. They like that stuff. So that organization promotes human trafficking and things like that. And whatever the deep state wants, the FBI gives them. So that's those organizations. So, so you shouldn't expect, much from the District of Columbia. As far as I'm all concerned, I'm all done with the union. Okay. Without exception. I'd say repeal the Constitution, send the bastards home. Our state governments are enough tyranny for us to deal with. And some of them are worse, as bad as the federal government. So yeah, our union's done. Listen, I promise you, there is no president has the authority to change that tide. End of story, full stop. Listen, Congress controls presidents all day. They can impeach them. They can give them no money. No power. Okay, so not going to happen. And if you think the FBI supports the president, let's say any president, you don't understand the FBI. So it's all done. There's no hope. Okay, for the union. I love America. Make America states again. Listen, we can loosely function, but we don't need a central government for that. Every state can negotiate with each other and set up talks and all that crap. It's easy, easy peasy. The beauty of it is no central government. We won't be invading other countries and we won't be serving central bankers. Of course, state reps, they serve central bankers sometimes too. So it's bad enough. I'm not a union guy, not interested. By the way, one of the things we say is that if you think America's a country, and listen, that's ingrained. I say America, our country, and all. It's just ingrained in us. But if you think America's a country, you might think Europe's a country, okay? Because they have a union, and so do we. We're a confederation of states. These states are all members of the Hague Convention as separate to each other. They're sovereign with respect to each other, okay? And listen, one of the things about the straw man thing that they think about, not only that everywhere you turn there's a contract, okay? There's not, okay, not a valid contract. They also think everything is corporate. Oh, corporate United States. Listen, that was another thing that was in the email from Jess, and it misquoted me. I'm not of the opinion that that the people that have to file and pay are, the only people who have to file and pay are corporate officers or those that work for the federal government. No, I never said any of that. Okay, that's a common belief. All U.S. citizens, regardless of where they live, and resident aliens have a filing requirement. If those kinds of people are officers of corporation, yeah, they have to file and pay. That's true. If federal citizens are working for our government and all that, if they're aliens that are residing in the United States on paper, the district one, they all have tax liabilities because of that. Not because they work for the federal government. Yes, if you're working for the federal government, you of course have a tax liability. Duh, you're working in the District of Columbia. No kidding. And states, they have corporations and they have tax ID numbers, and so they have employees. They're being handled just like a corporation. They would be in that jurisdiction as well. Because it's true? No, because they don't get the definition of the term United States right. Now, someone would say, "Oh, Chris, how arrogant of you! Are you suggesting that all these attorneys and these people that they're all wrong and you're right on?" Yes, that's what I'm saying. And how do I know that? All you have to do is look over the landscape of attorneys that know the law and all that stuff. And they were wearing masks. When they're wearing masks, the law didn't matter and that they don't know shit from Shinola. Okay. Just because someone's an attorney, do they know anything about liberty, freedom, rights, limitations of government? No. Attorneys know about as much about what is right and what is moral and what the limitations of government's all from their schools. They know much about that as doctors know about how the body works and how it can heal itself without drugs or what have you. You see, doctors don't know. Ministers don't know the scriptures. They may not, and maybe they know about it in some level. They may not even have a relationship with God. So just because someone's been to school and studied a particular subject matter means nothing. There are very intelligent communists. What does that mean? See? Don't give away your power. Be aware of yourself. So what, people say, well, Christopher, what should I study? Let me tell you. When you're talking about freedom, that's what you're building inside you. Freedom's not on the outside. Freedom's on the inside, okay? You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And if Jesus Christ make you free, you'll be free indeed, okay? So, but the idea is freedom is built on the inside. Remember, William Wallace, they can take our lives, but they can't take our freedom. That's on the inside. You can be incarcerated and be free in your heart and your mind. That's your work to build. And if you don't build that work, then you'll be someone else or something else will tell you who you are. You're connected to the divine, and you need to figure out what that relationship is and looks like. Okay, does that make sense? Now, liberty is the demonstration of that freedom and how it's played out. That's where governments violate you, is in your liberties. And that's what we would be concerned with, okay? And again, the most important information for you to learn is who you are and what you're about and why you're here. That's the most important thing for you to know. Knowing the law. Hey, how's that working for us, knowing the law? Do you remember that 60-minute report or one of those TV shows or whatever, where they, I think it might have been Forbes magazine, they took like the top 5 tax, accountant firms, okay? And they gave them the same scenario. Husband, wife, 2 children. Here's how much they make, the same thing. They all had all the details about this family, okay? And they had them prepare their tax returns and compare. Nobody had the same tax return. If the experts in America or even the world cannot figure out the tax code, then of course I would agree that it should be void for vagueness. So, but the idea is that, there's people studying the codes and those rules and all that stuff. An accountant doesn't study tax law. That would be a tax attorney. An accountant is trained, if they're an enrolled agent, they're trained in doing what the IRS wants them to do and how to fill things out and fill out paperwork. They're basically administrators serving the central government in the private sector on some level. Of course, they all have businesses and all that stuff. But that's what they're there to do. So they don't know anything more about the law than barely the tax attorneys. Any tax attorney, any attorney who's paying income tax obviously doesn't understand the tax code. And again, let me tell you something. This is brilliant. And again, on some level, yes, I would agree that there's fraud because this is known, and your representatives don't give a crap about you. You know, like George Carlin said, it's a big club. You're not in it. Your representatives are elected to serve themselves and other interests other than yours at your expense. Not a very good representation, okay? But the idea is this entire jurisdictional thing comes down to, definition of terms. Not all terms. Of course, there's a lot, and they're easy to see, and we go over those in the state citizenship class. But just the definition of the term United States alone is the crux to all of this, okay? And that's why I say to people is like, I am a United States citizen and I'm not a United States citizen. Both those are true, okay? And so that the idea of that is that if you don't get that term correct, then you're going to have trouble. If you think that the answer, when someone says, are you a United States citizen, you quickly say, no, you do not understand that jurisdiction. Because you truly can't answer that question until you know from the person who's asking it, what is the definition of the term United States that they're using when they ask you, are you a United States citizen? Because the federal government, the IRS, defines U.S. citizen by the 14th Amendment. How do I know that? Because it's in their paperwork. We read it. They literally say that. We can see it in the tax code. They literally say it's the 14th Amendment citizen. Now, there were citizens before the 14th Amendment. But their only citizens there were state citizens. The federal government did not have a statutory citizen. And those citizens were based upon habitation and domicile, that if they were lived here, they were a citizen. And I use that word citizen loosely from the sense of saying a participant. I'm a citizen of New Hampshire. I care about New Hampshire. I don't give 2 flips about California or New York. Okay, I'm not a citizen of California and New York. I have representatives in New Hampshire. I don't have representatives in Montana or in California, whatever. So that's when I'm saying citizen. The states, I've never seen a state constitution that has given the power to the state to create a citizen. There's no such thing as that. Okay, so states, if you want to be in a state, then you come into a state, you become a citizen by setting up habitation domicile. The state isn't having you set that up. Then there's things that are available to you because you're a citizen. And you don't want to conflate the term residency. The courts these days are conflating habitation domicile and residency. That's to our demise. You want to keep those things clear. Hopefully that makes sense. It says, a matter of applying for a passport as a state citizen, or are there other, is it a matter of applying for a passport as a, well, the reason that we do the passport process is because it's in that arena that you are declaring under penalty of perjury that you are or are not a 14th Amendment citizen. And the State Department is qualified, and it's part of their job to determine if you qualify for passport. And so that's why we do it in that process. There's no status change, if you will. Okay? There's no status change, like as if the State Department's facilitating anything like that. Don't look for the State Department to answer questions and doing all that stuff. If you have questions for the State Department, do it in a FOIA request. Then they have a formal obligation to answer your questions or produce documents for you. When we do the full passport process for a client, we will also do a FOIA request where we'll get certified copies of your passport file. And then you'll have evidence signed by the Secretary of the United States, a wedding signature, and that will be your proof or your evidence of what you've said under penalty of perjury. You could admit that in court if you wanted to. And it's very easy to deal with the IRS because we know how to stay out of that jurisdiction out here. Okay, and so that's why we do all this paperwork, is because we're establishing a case, if you will, long before you would even have any trouble. We've had no clients. Listen, we have no clients dealing with IRS. We've had plenty of people. I don't know that it's a lot, but we've had clients that come in that are dealing with the IRS, and they come in, and when we have to endeavor to straighten those things out, we know the pathway the IRS goes. The IRS is going to have a third party give them your property. That's the path they always go. We know that, and therefore we would know how to counsel or help you in that capacity. But you have to change that citizenship with the State Department. Okay, that's one of those things. Then let's see here. So yeah, that's part of there. Thank you, Rand. Can we do the workshops and do our own path? Yeah, there is a passport workshop. You're required to take the state citizenship class first. That's $385. And then the passport workshop is $1,660. That includes the workshop and all of the alignment class workshops as well. So that's the price for that. Let me back that up, okay? The $1,660 is the price for the passport workshop. And yes, it does include the class. It's included. It's not extra in there. It is in that $1,660 for the workshop. So, but again, before you can get access to the workshop, you have to take the class first, okay? So that's how that works. Does becoming a state citizen negate the need to renounce U.S. citizenship as far as chasing? No, there's no renouncing. You know, how many times are you asked, are you a United States citizen? Again and again and again. You're going to stop just quickly answering that. You're going to qualify it, and then you're going to answer it properly in that regard. There's no renouncing. That, expatriating is for federal citizens to eliminate their federal citizenship. And usually in that process, you have to pay all back taxes and all that. So that's kind of a privilege of leaving the federal zone in that way. What I'm making up about you, maybe, is that you never made that choice of being a federal citizen. I believe you believe that there was no other choice and that you have filled out bad paperwork. When we do a passport process, when you've done a passport before, we let the State Department know that you filled out the application in error, and we're correcting those errors. Again, we bring everything into the light, and we want everything to be truthful. This person says, I am naturalized U.S., born in another country. Can I become a state citizen? Yeah, remember, state citizenship is based on habitation domicile. If you notice in your naturalization paperwork, there was a state in which you had your first citizenship. And of course, there's paperwork when you got your Social Security and other things you may have filled out as a resident alien. If you were a resident alien first, then you're telling them that you're residing in the District of Columbia. So they're naturalizing, if you will, federal citizens from these resident aliens. When you do your passport process, if you already have a passport, we'll correct those errors. We'll let them know that you're not a 14th Amendment citizen and that you're a citizen of your state in which you have your habitation domicile. And you may have been a citizen of one state and now you live in another state. That'll be where you have your habitation domicile. Nationality is nativity. Like, for example, I'm a citizen of New Hampshire. I was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'm a Pennsylvanian by birth. I will always be a Pennsylvanian. And so on my passport, it always will say Pennsylvania, that place that I have my birth. That's nationality. Do you need to finish the process by April 15th? You better hurry. What's the rush for April 15th? If you're not a federal citizen or resident alien, you may not, April 15th may come and go. It may not matter. Let's see here. Let's see. What's the deal here? Let's see. Just seeing if there's any questions online. Should we be able to sue them for fraud? Is that, yeah, that's it. Sue the federal government. See how that goes. Do you have a whole gobs of money? I would put that money that you would pay your attorneys, and I would put it into crypto or something like that. But I wouldn't waste your time. It's like, geez, they sure took advantage of me. I want my money back. Yeah, yes, fraud. Listen, the better counsel is just let them leave you alone. Walk away clean. Walk away clean, man. You don't need to be the old gunfighter, okay? So I don't recommend it. Same thing with Social Security. It's like, can I get my Social Security back that I paid in? Look, give it up. You trusted him. You screwed up, okay? Just go breathe that in and go, I need to grow up, So that's going to be a fine thing. So anyway, after the passport procedure as a state citizen, not federal, will I be a national? Listen, if you're a citizen of a state, which is a nation, well, if you want to call yourself a state national, it's up to you. But America's not a nation. Anything national from the federal government is going to be anything American is going to be federal. America is federal, okay, in the sense of that, how the federal government governs that. Because if you're in one state, why do you want to be tied to another state by saying, hey, I'm an American? Listen, calling yourself as an American would be like an Italian or a German referring themselves. Oh, we're European, I'm European. It may be true. No one's claiming that. Only a fool would claim that they're of their union. It's kind of a strange thing, but hey, look, when your government indoctrinates your children, what do you expect? You're going to have, you're going to have a kind of a funky way of looking at things and dealing with things. Again, I talked a little bit about straw man. It's not in the class I handle straw man and those kind of concepts and questions. I don't recommend them. It's a mess. And again, you give away your power. And listen, here's another thing too. Your name in certain font, why is that anything with respect to you? As if someone writing your name in a certain font, that means anything for you, okay? Can you imagine talking to Jesus Christ and say, Jesus, listen, the Romans are filling you out in all capital, they got your straw man there, you're born in Bethlehem, and of course that's in Gaza, and of course we're killing everybody there, so, hey, what are we going to do about you? It's like, hey, I'm not even in that thing. So listen, if someone's dealing with you based upon how you're writing your name, or how about this one? Here's a good one. What color ink should I use when it's like, well, which one has you showing or telling the truth? So the writing technology, that's the thing, whether it's in pencil or it's certain ink or whatever, if it's pretty, you pick the color one. When you do your passport stuff, it's going to be in black. They require that. So, but anyway, U.S. national is going to be federal. How is your service different from ASN counseling types? I don't know ASN type. How about my status select? Again, I'm not familiar with those. There's a lot of work out there. I don't really want to be critical of other people's work. People have to figure out that stuff for themselves and all. Sometimes when a client will come in and we'll have, talking about some of these things, I'll handle them. Again, we handle them in the class. Um, just like my teacher said, you got to work this material. You have to figure it out for yourself and some of this. Um, Someone says they have several business LLCs, S corps. Do those need to be sold? I mean, if you can sell them or want to sell them, that's fine. But if you want to be in the private, then you don't want to be tied to government. All corporations are tied to government. That's why they're taxed and regulated. All of them, if they have tax ID numbers, not going to have tax ID numbers. Listen to me when I say carefully, okay? Especially like uh, charities, 501c3s, 508s, all that stuff. Listen, okay? You're not going to get a number from the District of Columbia in any category, way, shape, or form. Why would you want to? But I want that number because I have to open up a bank account. Look, use the government ID number, that Social Security. Listen, it's less important that you give out that or disclose that number. And you may have an explanatory statement like we do with the State Department with respect to that Social Security number. You may want to make it clear that you're not contracting with them or implying that you're a federal citizen, all that. We handle all that in the passport process. But listen, it's the government number. It's not your number. It's not your number. Okay. They're using it as an identifier. Okay. One government wants that number. It's like, it's not a big deal in and of itself. But many times we would mark in there saying it's for informational purposes and only. There's two ways you use Social Security: paying in and receiving benefit. Giving out numbers is just a data thing and all. And listen, if you are dealing with a corporation or some government entity and you don't want to give out more data, then just invite that government entity to reach out to the NSA and ask them for information about you, because they have it all and they'll be able to help them out and fill them in if they need it. Someone says, what about existing 401ks? Listen, stock market's going to collapse. The dollar's going to be gone. If you're trusting stock market or government with respect to your future, you'll be in the same category as people that have Social Security. That's going to fall apart. Get assets out of the dying dollar into anything else. Okay. And of course, we'll help you navigate pulling things out of those things. Listen, you set them up with certain bad information, of course, being a federal citizen and all that. That's what creates the tax liability associated with them. These entities will need tax information in order to pay out and all that. We help navigate. That's why we have that alignment workshop, the W8 and W9 class, and that 1445. All those together will help you navigate that space. And of course, you can always hire us to deal with you personally and things like that. Someone says, do I need to file forms as active expatriation? No. Revocation of election? No. Income tax? If you don't have a federal income tax, you're not going to have a state income tax. Income tax DC? No. Declaration of political status? You can, listen, that explanatory statement that we use with the federal government is pretty thorough. But you don't have to. You could do that. But here's one of the things they do with straw men is they notify all these governments. Now, you have no obligation to notify anybody for anything. When something comes towards you, you can make things clear. If it makes you feel better to send out notifications, that's up to you. But they typically don't answer them. It's a bit masturbatory in nature. Feels good, produces nothing. Okay. Some of that. So it's not Secretary Blinken. Yeah, Secretary Blinken is the one that's going to sign right now until next year, or whatever, your certified documents with the State Department. So there'll be wet ink signature from that soul. After the Corporate Transparency Act took effect this year, I wonder if a state citizen can be listed as a beneficial owner. No, and pass the KBA. Yeah, you're not going to fill out a WAB, BN or anything like that. A state citizen, if you're having to do KYC, get your terms correct, understand the subject matter. You may have an explanatory statement, but you don't have obligations to fill out KYC. You're not a federal citizen or resident alien, okay? And so when you understand the subject matter, you're going to understand what these forms mean and why they have those forms. So anyway, that's our workshops help navigate that stuff. Question: I am an American citizen living abroad. Okay. In Australia, now with an expired federal passport, and I was looking to renew. Well, with this process, it won't be a renewal; it'll be a first time. Um, yes, you can do that process in Australia at the consulate, and we've helped people worldwide with this process at the consulate. And again, you would be required to do the full passport process because that information and data is not in the passport workshop. So that would be part of the full passport process, and we would help you navigate dealing with the consulate and things like that. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Um, is that 44 per person? Yeah, we already said that. Yeah, we have discounts for your kids and for family members. We can get that to you. Um, Explain how trust works in this regard. In the state citizenship class, we show you that if a federal citizen is a trustee on a trust, that trust is in federal jurisdiction. When we set up trust with clients, when the clients, either the one client or say a husband, wife, or whatever, when they are trustees after they've done the passport process, okay? We also have adversarial trustees that have also done these processes, people I know personally and all. They will be on your trust with you. So it's not you're by yourself, because IRS looks at federal citizens on trusts and that the trust is an alter ego. They can take property out of trust easily for federal citizens, and they have that jurisdictional access to them. When you understand that, you'll realize that the trust that has a tax ID number is not a very good trust with respect to the federal government. The reason that people do trusts are, one, the biggest reason is to keep the property out of probate. So a trustee dies, the trust is still in place. That's probably the number one reason people do that. That would be the same in this situation as well. But the idea is that they cannot be federal citizens as trustees. As beneficiaries, that's not a matter because they don't make decisions for the trust. Okay. And in our trust, we have another position called a protectorate who's able to install and replace trustees. There is a video on the conference call tab on the Destination Freedom website. You can scroll down to the bottom there. There is a talk on trusts. There's a talk on allodial titles and things like that. There's a talk on debt discharge, things like that. So those are some audios that are on the website that you can take a look at. Speaking of spouses, my wife isn't on board yet. Well, I would learn how to enroll your spouse because it's gonna matter, and listen, how they feel and being afraid is a big deal. The government is banking on people being ignorant and afraid. It's a good combination for controlling people, and that's why this particular tax model works. Okay, I am less bothered by the amount of tax people pay with respect to that. I'm more concerned with how much the government controls people and is involved with every single transaction that they make. That is the worst thing, not about the tax. You could keep the amount of money that the tax pays, move it into the corporate arena, and just free people up from having that kind of having the government have that kind of control over their people. That's the worst part of the tax code. Someone says, if we can't afford 44, we just need to be super educated on this. Is there a way? Well, there's always a way in some capacity. If you want to talk with us about your financial situation, I'd like to talk about how it is, you set up, what you're doing. I'd say that if you can't afford the amount and what's bringing to the table, and to compare it to the value of not filing and paying. If you're in debt, we do discharge credit card debt. The moment you begin that, you can stop filing and paying, stop paying your credit card stuff. That'll free up certain assets every month. That's some of those things. But if you're struggling in your business and how to make wealth, then that's your biggest thing you need to overcome. And we have some support for that. We have what I call an accountability call that we're looking to do like a Sunday afternoon. There's no cost to that, but there's not going to be any counsel in that. That's just a place for you to declare what you're going to have happen in your life. What you need is a breakthrough in your finances, and we're committed to helping you with that. Uh, Here's my belief: if you can't make money in America, something wrong. Okay? If you can't make money in America with the internet having a worldwide market, there's something wrong. And that's what you're up against is how you think about money. That we would be glad to help you um, change some of that mindset. So, but don't run from that. Just embrace that, and we can work it out. And then we may have resources available to assist in some capacity. But those are some things we're looking to put together as we move forward now. But again, you'd have to be a part of that conversation about how things are for you. Um, yeah. Someone on YouTube is another question about straw man stuff, and again, we handled some of that. I have a video on YouTube. It's a live video that deals with straw man. Just go to that video on YouTube and watch it. I handle the subject matter in great detail. So as long as I'm not married to another half finances are separated, should be okay since we never filed jointly. I suppose, yeah. But the thing about it is, not being on the same place with your spouse, does cause problems in your marriage, and we want to, we're concerned for you. So, don't leave your spouse behind. Come to some agreement. Yeah, Bitcoin is up. Yeah, that's good. I wonder if we can do this alone without our assets in bank. Yeah, of course you can. But again, you got to be wise about how your accounts are together and things like that. If they're paying their taxes, and it's not likely that if you stay out of that the IRS is going to come after you. Typically, if someone's filing and owes taxes, that's where they may come after someone who's has assets and all that stuff. So they're always going after the one with the money. If you did pay for yourself, it's a lot less. Yeah. The difference between the Rand seems to. Rand, are you looking for a job? Because you seem to be helping out here on this particular call. Yeah. So the full passport process is $4,400, includes all the workshops, the alignment workshops, and the passport. When the passport workshop is $1,660, and it includes all of those workshops as well, and that has a passport workshop. So that's the difference in the price of doing it your own. What is straw man? Yeah, I want Mike from California. If you want to find out I don't want to tell you about straw man, but I would tell you what's funky about straw man. You can go to that video on YouTube that we talked about straw man. Hopefully that makes sense. Someone says I grew up in a communist country. Oh, you grew up in America? We're heading there. Yeah, we're already there. Listen, our Congress has adopted all 10 planks of the Communist Manifesto. So we're land of the free, home of the brave. BS. We're already a communist nation. We're just a pretty communist nation with a certain level of BS that we do. So we're already there. The guy who had it best on the Constitution was Spooner. Yeah, no treason. The Constitution, no authority. Does becoming a state citizen negate the need to renounce? No. As far as traveling, no, there's no need to renouncing. We do reject the 14th Amendment citizen, but it isn't any formal renouncing. Does the 44 include the filing fee charged by the federal government? No, it does not. That's going to be additional charges for the passport at the post office and with the federal government. They will bill you on there. All right, I'm going to throw Nonaman out because he said the BC. He used the BC where I did not have sex with that woman. Yeah, no, they were doing that at the in Acapulco. But anyway, national law let them that can be fools be fooled. Can you explain how trust work? I did that a little bit. It looks like I answered those questions already. Okay, here we go. When do you do the 1600 advanced workshop? Will we need more assistance? Yeah. So if you're doing the passport workshop, at any point, if you need us to look over your documents, or you want us to do some paperwork, or let's say you're doing the passport workshop and the State Department writes you and you're a little overwhelmed, yes, you can pay. There are extra fees, like $250 or things like that. I think it's 300 or something for a FOIA request or whatever. But there are extra fees, and there's a place under the council assistance where you can add that, and we'll be glad to help you in that regard. We don't want to leave anybody behind, and that we want to make sure that you're comfortable with all of that. Person says, I'm a dentist in California. My office is an S corp of which I'm an employee. If I make relevant status changes and follow our system, is it possible for me to become a state citizen? Do you think there are too many federal complexities for someone such as myself to make a move like that? No, the whole thing is, depending on how important you are to the dentist's office, you're going to ask them and say, listen, I did a process with the U.S. State Department, and so therefore I've eliminated my income tax liabilities, so I cannot be an employee. You're unemployable. I can contract with you. So set up a contract, be responsible for your own taxes, if any, then whatever you're paying, you no longer be an employee. You can work for them as a contractor. And the thing that might be great is, do part-time. I'll do 1-2 days, find another dentist, do 2 days. Now you're showing that you have many or other clients. Now you can have one client as this one, but you're going to need to keep things, you're going to need to invoice them and all that stuff. Now we have 2 platforms. Now, when people want to reach out to me for consultation or whatever it is, that's $450 for me to spend an hour with you to talk about your specifics, okay? But we have less expensive counsel that you can embark on. You have to embark on a process for 6 months, which is an hour a week. You can be a part of, if you want one-on-one, that is $300 an hour, which is $7,200, I think is what it is for 6 months. If you want to be a part of a group that can be up to 10 people in that group, then it's only $100 an hour, and that's every week. And so we can answer your questions and deal with your scenarios and situations, and then that'll work out much better from that. I think in the one where we have more people in the class, we may spend more time depending on how many people are. We won't spend 10 hours for 10 people, but we'll spend quite a bit of time dealing with everybody's stuff. But yeah, again, you cannot be an employee, and you can do this process while you're employed, but that has to end because you're paying in and you have bad paperwork that has to be corrected. So online, someone says they have a citation here. Have you come across Title 15, which is Commerce Trade, says that a United States business is a United States business. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, the term United States in that code is going to be the District of Columbia. So a business in the District of Columbia is a business in the District of Columbia. That's great. Will there be special ways to open up a bank account as a non-federal citizen? It is not a non-federal citizen, okay? It's that you can say that not as a federal citizen, but don't use the word non in front of things because it just doesn't change anything. It's like because in the passport process they have a United States citizen or a non-citizen national. So non-citizen is a thing. Doesn't communicate the same thing. But I do understand your question. And yes, like I set up another bank account like yesterday, and I gave them my W-8 and W-9. Okay, and we have a stamp that is an all rights reserved stamp. You might stamp your documents and stuff. Again, our workshops give you that support for dealing with those terms and such as that. So, and again, we'll make sure you have that support. Would you recommend addressing a ticket that was signed without prejudice in the name? I don't think that's as very good just without prejudice. It doesn't communicate enough. In our driver's license alignment workshop, some of the documents that we use, our explanatory statement has the restoration of the right to travel. And therefore, we're putting that in the record. Now, we've had no clients get a ticket that have put those documents into the state driver's license. In New Hampshire, we actually dealt with the state, with the assistant commissioner of DMV in the state of New Hampshire, and we told they were not taking our documents at one time. And I went in and talked to them about that these have to be truthful. The statute requires them to be truthful, and that there were terms that we didn't agree with, and we had information on that. So they took. I gave them information about 12 different clients that we had in New Hampshire that had done this process. They took that information to the Attorney General's office in New Hampshire. They said and advised that they had to take our paperwork. They sent out a memo to all the DMVs in New Hampshire to accept our paperwork accordingly. And actually this year it's been a few years since I did driver's license for myself. So this summer I have to do it again. So I'll have that sentiment in the documents that are in the DMV. Now I've been putting these documents in New Hampshire for a number of years, probably over, more than 10 years, probably about 15 years or more. So again, we're very active in that, in with our state. And listen, when you can get good at dealing with bureaucracy, so that's kind of cool. Someone says, will there be a special way? Oh, so we already did that. Okay, yeah. Oh, you misquoted. You said, a U.S. business is a U.S. citizen. That sentiment, again, it might be in the same category of how they define the word person with respect to that. Am I using, I'll get that question about payment. I work for a church entity that is incorporated as a nonprofit. They will not hire anyone who doesn't fill out W-4 or W-I-9. I'm so unhappy. Contract with them. They don't hire the pizza guy, just be a contractor. And yes, they have contractors. Any business that does work for the church is a contractor. And of course you can give them proper documents. And yeah, you're not going to fill out a W-4, you're unemployable. So find another job. If your church is a communist church, then don't be attached to a communist church. If they are a statist church, then they're certainly not doing things according to the Bible. So find a church that's freer. What was his name? Chuck Colson or whatever his name, out of Montana. They don't do 501c3s. Invite the church out of. We want to go to churches and help the church, set up a trust that's foreign to the District of Columbia, and help everybody in the church stop filing income taxes and eliminate all their credit card debt. Imagine how much money the church could have if they would just come out of the federal zone. What a lovely thing that is. Look up the story about Ceausescu in Romania and how the church served those people when those college students were massacred on the church steps. Your church might do that too, unfortunately. But that's why they're called non-profit, right? Because there's no profit there. Moving on, as how do you operate a business as a state citizen obeying? That's all part of our classes and all. We talk about that. And again, we have some we coach on that stuff. And again, you're, operating a business. The idea is that it's your business. You'll do it in your private capacity. You will be doing your business. You won't have an entity. Now, if you want to form a trust organization, that is a contractual trust. You have a right to contract. You can deal with that for your privacy. You can hold property. All those things are available to you, and you can stay out of the federal zone. But you won't be doing corporations. And so you can do business. You can have insurance, all that stuff. All the alignment deals with, if you're going to fill out forms and you're going to have social security numbers, you're going to want to know how to navigate that space. Mm-hmm. What about navigating the banks in other countries? Same thing. Banks are no different in other countries. They too are trained by our taxes. Remember our treaties that deal with taxing federal citizens and residents worldwide. So you have to understand these governments and corporations worldwide are dealing with the federal government the same way with their citizens. So when you learn how to navigate this, your paper will be congruent overseas as well. You won't have a tax liability there either. And listen, you have to learn for yourself. This is a lifestyle change. And so the idea of that is you're going to need to learn to deal with people who are ignorant of these matters, and then how you're going to navigate that space. Okay, it's just a thing. You know,
You have
you can.
51 questions on go to.
Oh, I'm working them down, sweetie. I'm working on all of them,
Oh,
sweetie.
you're on there. Okay, good.
Yeah, I got the little missus
Just,
behind me cheering me
just
on.
checking.
Yeah, the person says I want to take all the classes and workshops. What's the cost? Oh, no. So when you sign up for the full passport process, which is 4,400, you get all the workshops. Now there are other workshops at different prices. Like a trust is $3,000. Um, a Our debt discharge workshop is 1776. That's a good number. If we're helping you do your debt discharge, then we would charge 10% of your of what it is you're discharging. So, and we recommend that the client would pay us on those cards before we discharge them. And of course, we also recommend that if you have balances and margin on your cards, to be sure to buy gold, silver, or you want to max out those cards before you discharge them, because you're going to discharge the entire credit line. And then you're going to be all done with debt, and you're going to be all done with credit. Um, so, do you have to pay California income tax? If you don't have a federal income tax liability, you won't have a state income tax liability also. And again, you're not going to be employed. You'll be doing your own thing. Again, you can navigate that, and we have clients in those states. Can you put your business trust? Yes, we do trust for that. A person says, I'm a professional musician. That is awesome. And share 4 S corps with my partners. And my wife runs an Amazon business through an LLC. She's European. Now that's not very specific about your wife. I Can I still be a national? No, I don't want you to be a national. You mean a state citizen? Will my corporate ownership have to be revoked? Now all that stuff, all those relationships will be redefined. You won't have those obligations. They're all in the federal zone. Let them keep their corporations. You'll be just a contractor. They can contract with them. You don't have to give them any of that stuff. You won't be filing. And so um, your other 3 partners will be in the federal zone. Now, that will change the music, okay? Your sound will sound richer and clearer and wonderful. The other 3 musicians will be a little bit off, it'll be a little bit funky, but once they all come out of the federal zone, there'll be a harmony in your music that will really, really be awesome. And of course, your wife needs to change her paperwork as well. Yeah, exactly. Switch to 432 hertz. Good word. I heard that. If a corporation is willing to have you as a contractor and no tax liability to them, will that work for? Yeah, I mean, you'd be a contractor. They're going to ask for a W-9. We have a W-9 and a W-8. I've given that to H&R Block. I've given to Waste Management. I've given them many major corporations throughout the United States have received these documents just fine. I've given those documents to PayPal. Um, I just gave that document to, oh yeah, my bank. And so, no, that's TD Bank. So yeah, these documents are used all the time. They're very good and they work. Um, couldn't you pay for services with credit card and then discharge the debt? Yes, of course, you could pay for our services and discharge the debt. That is true. Then the bankers will be paying for our services. We don't mind if that's how we get paid. We'll just have to just realize that it'll be one for the good guys. Do you recommend a freedom of information request for passport information after finishing? That is part of our process to do a FOIA after the passport process. In the workshop, there's documents that support you. That is the completion of the passport workshop, or the passport process is certified copies of your passport file signed by the Secretary of the United States. That's the completion of the process. So let's see here. Yeah, so that's there. Um, the Corporate Transparency Act is a very controversial act. Okay. That was passed, took effect just 2 months ago. Now every corporation has to become a reporting agent. Okay. They do anyway and did anyway. So part of the Treasury is now federal, blah, blah, LLCs, that file the feds or pay back. Yeah, nothing's going to change. It's all the same. It doesn't matter. They're just compelling. That's always been that way. It's just now they're demonstrating it. So it's not a big deal. You just have to have your paperwork correct, okay? And just because they've never seen it before doesn't mean that it's not that you can't navigate this. We navigate this stuff all over the world all the time. It's not a problem. Takes a long time to get a passport. No, it doesn't. You know, we've had clients get passports in 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Sometimes that's been pretty quick. It's not usually that quick, but we have seen that recently. Typically, passports 4 to 6 weeks with an expedited. We don't usually expedite. Ours are a little under 4 to 6 weeks, so it doesn't take a long time though. To get your certified documents, that could take 6 months, sometimes even a year. That's a slow thing because it's actually, um, takes its time. What do I think of Paymont's work? Um, I think there was Paymont. Paymont's a nice guy. I like Paymont. Um, I've known Paymont since we were both involved with We the People, which was back with GiveMeLiberty.org. I was the state coordinator for New Hampshire during that time. I knew Paymont. He had the Freedom Law School. He has sent me his stuff. I've seen what he does and all that. There are things that we agree upon. There are things that we don't agree upon. Looks like I lost my visual. Can everybody still hear me?
I can.
Okay, I'm still coming through. Okay, look, I came back. That's awesome. Um, so yeah, Paymont's a great guy. There are people that have come to me that were with his stuff that weren't happy with his work, and we're glad to serve them some capacity. It's very difficult. I know personally. I mean, I have his cell phone number. It's still difficult to get him on the phone. That's pretty typical. He has some assistance and all that. He deals with taxes. This process we do is jurisdictionally, it's holistic, it's on every category with respect to this. We're dealing with the citizenship issue as a jurisdictional thing. It includes the tax codes, one of the benefits of the tax code, okay? But again, he recognizes that filing and all that stuff will cause problems for people. We don't have people filing and paying. So there are similarities, but one of the unique selling propositions for us is that we try to be very available, answer lots of questions, be connected with people. Now we've had an influx of a lot of clients, so we're going to have a bit of a backlog, but we are stepping up and we're bringing all those resources, and we're going to be working very hard for everybody. So that's part of that. Let me see if there was more there. No. All right. So someone says, what do you think about the idea of acting as agent for our trust rather than trustee, somehow removing the need to do all the status? Yeah, no, I don't recommend that. And no, we don't use the term agent in that. When I have power of attorney over, with respect to a client, I'm agent with respect to the client. Okay, that's power of attorney. Okay, but in trust, the ones that have authority are trustees. It's called a trust because they're trustees. That's the language in the trust, and that's what we do. We don't have an agent. So now I have someone that's an agent in Norway that stewards the address that we use in Norway. That person is my agent with respect to that. But that person isn't a trustee on any trust. They have no authority. Trustees are the only ones that have authority. When you file paperwork, you're responsible for collecting all KYC documents for beneficial owners with 25%. Not me. I don't have those obligations. That's all federal citizen stuff. So we don't have those obligations. So there's no having to file stuff. That's for federal citizens and resident aliens and those corporations and all that. So we have no responsibility for that. What's the hardest part about the transition lessons learned? What's the major lifestyle changes? I would say the hardest part is what is going on in your head in these processes and what you're making up about them. I'm going to say that if you don't have facts and evidence to support what it is you're suggesting or moving towards, then if you're going to make something up, make up something good. Don't make up bad shit. It doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve anybody. If you think this is a fight, I want you to get rid of that whole energy because I don't want to work. I'm a lover. You know, like Michael Jackson said, I'm a lover, not a fighter. Now, there's a time for fighting. This is peaceful paperwork, okay? And so we're just correcting the record. We're bringing everything into the light. We don't want you living like a runaway slave. That's not free. We want you to be in the light. There's no hiding under the table, sneaking, all that crap. None of that is what we do. We're just doing what the tax code says that we can do. And it's not that we can do, it's you know who the tax code is for, and that's not you. You're just going to pursue your happiness, serve your clients, and make the money accordingly, you know. So, but again, what you're making up about it might empower you or disempower you. Um, nope, in Poland in the 60 days. I have no idea what that one's about. What kind of lead time is there to get personal passport? We're doing passport processes now. We have a few people ahead of you. There's going to be more coming in all the time. I would stay ahead of the of that wave and get in so that you can be first in, first out is how we're handling that. How often, it says, I often do freelancing work. How do I address that? Companies often require me to provide a social security number escort. Yep, that's handled in the alignment workshop. It's also handled in our W8 and W9 workshop. Both those workshops handle dealing with giving them a proper W9, a request for tax ID, and a W8, a certificate of foreign status. You're exempt. They don't have to have a number, but they have to have those documents on file in order to write off what they give to you. So that's how that works. Again, that's part of the support for the state citizens that are doing business. What forms are required to complete the process becomes a passport file. When you're going to sign up for the full passport process, everybody that becomes a client has to fill out a hold harmless agreement. And so you agree to do arbitration to solve any kind of disputes. You're going to waive your right to a trial. And so that's a choice of release or non-release. So you fill out a hold harmless agreement. You're going to sign every provision, and I have to have that notarized. And so I get those documents. So when we're doing the full passport process, you're going to give me a DS11 so we can, set up paperwork for you. You'll be submitting your own documents. We submit no documents on your behalf to anyone. You will always be submitting your own documents, and then there's payment. So payment, DS11, and the hold harmless agreement. For the passport workshop, we'll need a hold harmless agreement, and then we have templates and things in our workshop for you to do that. If ceasing liability for federal tax as a state citizen, is there still a state tax? No, I already said there is no state income tax liability. Are you using similar strategies as Mr. Pema? I don't know what strategies he does. Listen, I could be wrong, but he deals with people in court. We don't have clients in court, so he has attorneys that they'll have and deal with. We don't have attorneys, so it's just a little bit different. If different because do you do passport as a state citizen? Yeah, we do our passport process as a state citizen. And then again, we know how to navigate and deal with IRS and how to respond to them. We know all their letters that they have, and we know how to communicate with IRS and to tell the truth of whether you have a tax liability. What we want to make sure is that your paperwork's not bad and that you are giving IRS information that shows that you have a tax liability. You have to understand the process, and you have to stop having bad paperwork. IRS is not harming you because you are the one empowering the IRS to deal with you just the way you are. So again, that's why we're not fighting with IRS. We don't disagree with IRS. I wanted to do one thing. I remember in this thing having a conversation with Jeff about I think someone had passed on some IRS information about state citizenship. That information is out there about IRS says that state citizenship stuff is frivolous, okay? And that the courts have determined it's frivolous. And then they give you reasons why it's frivolous. Read those reasons, and we agree with IRS that people that are federal citizens and resident aliens that are claiming to be state citizens, that's frivolous. And because they fill out paperwork, W-4 forms and other forms, and they file and stuff, and so they don't have they have an income tax liability. So the IRS is handling them correctly based upon those people's own testimony. And that's why we agree with the IRS in those situations. When you're reading what the IRS says about it, they're always talking about the taxpayer. Look up in 7701 what a taxpayer is. Someone who owes a tax. And so if someone who owes a tax is claiming that they don't owe it, that's tax evasion, okay? There are provisions in the tax code that give those people opportunities to avoid certain taxes, okay? But if a person's a taxpayer, as the taxpayer defines, then of course they have an income tax liability. Just you have to be aware of whether you're a taxpayer or not. If you're a federal citizen, that's a 14th Amendment citizen, or a resident alien, you are a taxpayer. Pay your taxes. Can we do the full passport process while still owing several years of back taxes? Well, of course you can. And of course you have this relationship with the IRS that needs to change. And so you're gonna need to navigate how to communicate with the IRS. If it's over $50,000, they probably have communicated some with the State Department, and the State Department's not going to allow you to have your passport process done if they've given the State Department certified copies that you have an outstanding debt. We handle that information in the class, and we have paperwork about that in our passport process. So you want to make sure that that's not the case for you. And of course, if they've sent those certified documents, the State Department's not going to issue passport. How did TD experience go? That was good. I like those people over at TD Bank. Except for when I was getting my cash out. I didn't like that experience. That was weird. So the people in my branch local to me, they're really sweet. We're in there doing trust work all the time. They notarize everything we do. They know all of our trustees and stuff like that. So it's been a good relationship as that. But I was cashing out some money out, I guess it was like about $3,000 or something out of the bank. It's like they didn't want to part with the cash. It was really weird. I come in, I didn't want to go through the ATM because you can only get like $1,000. I can probably get about 1,500 out or something like that. But in my own branch. But it's like they took, she couldn't, the money wasn't in the drawer. They had to go in the vault. So they had to get somebody else in the vault. And then they came out. And then she counted it once. And she asked me for my ID. And then she counted it again. And then she pulled the money all together. And then she asked me for my ID again. And it's like, and then she asked me for my social security number. I said, like, what are we doing here? I said, I'm not giving you my social security number. Look, you got my account on the screen. I put in my bank card. I punched in my code. I gave you my ID. What are we doing here? Just give me my money. And she's like, okay, sorry. I said, listen, the TD Bank's supposed to be the world's most convenient bank. Pass it on to the managers that it's not very convenient. This policy way is not very convenient. Okay, so just give me my money so I can leave. They're like, okay. It's weird. I didn't give them a social. They have my social. What is that? Anyway, it says, would it be an advantage to have newborns from overseas be born in the U.S., documented first with U.S. Embassy, then fix the passport to the States? If you have a child born abroad and they're American parents, I would do that state citizenship class for that. But if you have a child born abroad, that child will have a birth record at the embassy of a child born abroad to American parents is how they define that. That child can get a passport and all that. That's how they'll show it. I want to just mention at this point that if you have a child born at home and you may not want to get a social. Not having a social is not a big deal. Can get a passport without a social. That's not a big deal. We have not overcome the State Department issuing passport without a birth certificate. Okay, I recommend getting the birth certificate as an easy way to move in that direction. If you're not, then I certainly would. In the moment, I would get a certificate of not certificate of live birth. I would get a certificate of birth, however you want to define that. Have the midwife or whoever's birth sign off on it. Have your witnesses sign off. Have it dated. And you may have it like the next day, have them notarize it and all that stuff. Do it as official as you possibly can, because the State Department's not, we're not finding the process that way. I am not a straw man guy. I do not believe in the monetizing. I went to the uh, archives in New Hampshire, talked to those guys. I saw the front and back of the birth records. There's nothing like they say in the strawman stuff. So, and that's not every state and all that stuff, but do they monetize it? Probably do all kinds of crap like that. But none of that has to do with any of these people involved in the birth record. Okay? There's no trust set up and all that nonsense. It's just that's called patriot mythology. It's got no facts or evidence to support it. We don't do any of that crap. So, and by having not being a part of that, there's going to be a piece about what you do. So again, it's much easier if there's a birth certificate, um, because if it's at the hospital, then there's going to be a birth record. They're going to say baby boy so and so, baby girl so and so, mother's last name. There'll be a birth record. The State Department will want that. We've used that birth record for a child, even though it doesn't have their name on it. So the birth certificate has or the passport has their picture. It has all their contact stuff, and it has baby boy, baby girl. If the state wants that, then that's the way it's fine. I've heard it takes a long time to get a new passport. It does not. How do we do it? How can we do it in 4 or 6 weeks? The State Department processes our stuff quicker. Do we need to turn in a current passport? You're going to turn in, if you have a passport, you will be turning it in. They'll punch holes in it, send it back to you. You will be getting new passport. What's the reason behind not having to pay California income tax? You don't want to? If you're a state citizen not paying federal income tax? Yeah, when you look in the tax code, the California tax code, they'll show that it's based on the federal. If you don't have a federal income tax liability, you're not going to have a state income tax liability. And these states communicate with the federal government. So if you were showing you were making money in California, California shares with the federal government. Federal government create a tax liability for you because you're filing and paying in California. So you're not doing either of those. And if IRS is you're paying there and you weren't paying state, the state will communicate with IRS. They'll report to each other. It's a team event for them. If a person has a global entry, does it need to be corrected? I have not read those documents. I had someone ask me that before. Again, those forms are probably filled out as federal citizens. You're going to want to have it be congruent with your passport process. I would definitely look at it again or resubmit it so that you can make sure those documents are correct. Would you brush over what I said? It was so easy about, let me see. Would you brush over what I said so easily without really understanding the impact of what this have on millions of corporations, and just think about trying to collect KYC does and submit them in your partners, even if the U.S. citizens most privacy ever seen. Oh, it's a statement. Chris, you brush over what I said so easily without really understanding the impact of what this will have on millions of corporations, and just think about trying to collect KYC docs and submitting them on your partners, even as a U.S. citizen. It's the most private evasion act I've ever. Yeah, I agree, and yes, you can navigate that space. It's just paperwork. Will this call be posted somewhere? Yeah, this call is gonna be live on YouTube. I'm gonna hope to close down in about 15 minutes if I can, but we'll see. What if you owe more than 10,000 to the IRS? Don't they hold issuing a? No, it's 50,000. If it's 10,000, it's they're not doing a citation. In this section 32 of the public law, blah, blah, part of your class, I don't have that in my class, no. Oh, hold on one second. Wait a minute. There's someone who had their class. Julie in Belize has a question. Go ahead, Julie. Is there anybody else has a question? It looks like there's only one person that has a question. Julie. I guess she lowered her hand. Okay, cool. That was cool. What is the hardest part of the transition? I already answered that. These repeated questions. I'm interested in full assistance. Full assistance passport process. Is there a constant call to make sure it works for me? You can. I mean, this is the question for finding out whether it'll work for you or not. Is this venue right here? If you want to call me, I mean, if I don't know what you'll look for, whether it'll work for you or not. Again, I answer questions. No one's going to take a tax stand while being employed, so you're going to have to change that. Outside of that, it should be fine. Um, if I take the passport class, is it easy to do myself? I have no idea to find out whether it's easy for you or not. I don't know you, so there's no way for me to answer that question of how easy it is. You know, there are people that are proficient in doing paperwork. They'll do the workshop. If you're not as comfortable doing paperwork, then we can do the documents for you. It's up to you. Again, if you struggle as you get into that, then you can pay more. We can service and help you with some of that. It'll still be cheaper, or you can just pay for the full passport and add the difference, and we'll take over from there. Naturalization, U.S. citizen born in another country, can they become? Yes, they can. So that means we have to pay down back taxes to be under 50,000 before. Um, that may be a situation unless you deal with IRS, or they'll end up moving to um, lien and stuff like that. So you want to find out if they've actually submitted something to the State Department, but that can be problematic because they're working hand in hand with the State Department, and the State Department's not, making this easy. They're not going to handle the matter at all. It's going to be an IRS matter, and there are people in that situation. And so my suggestion is create great credit, put it all on credit cards. The banks will pay off your IRS thing, and then just discharge that. That's what I would do. And I am a man freeborn. All people are freeborn, of lawful age, and well recommended. That sounds like a dating app thing here. Everybody should know that George is a free man born of lawful age, and he's well recommended. So I wish you well, George. I think you got something going there. My mom asked if we're true, if Thai were true, why would everyone do this? Yeah, I know if it were true, why wouldn't everybody do it? Well, because they're afraid and ignorant. How did America do during the COVID? We sucked. That's why. And look, good test. We suck. That's why they don't do it. Easily controlled. If you still watch TV, the evening news for your news, this might not be a process for you. Let's see. So, yeah. And listen, I had people years ago go, I'll visit you in prison. It's like, oh, yeah. Stop lying. You're not going to visit me in prison, you idiot. And people used to say that, back in the first year, the second year, when I dealt with IRS, 10 years, 20 years later, people just talk. On the website, when you click on Passport Workshop, it says that page can't be found. I'm not sure when that was there, but in order to take the Passport Workshop, you have to take the state citizenship class first. So once you take that, you'll have access to that workshop. It might come up, but I'll ask that to my web guy to make sure that communicates something better. What documents we need to gather for this process? I already answered that. Thanks for answering my question. Clearly need to consult with you. That's fine. What about getting a mortgage? Borrow some other private thing. Bringing on debt. I mean, look, they're going to ask our U.S. citizen. They're going to want socialists, and they're handing out money to federal citizens. Just keep your paperwork clear. The alignment workshop will guide you better in that paperwork. It's just paperwork. If you rented a couch from the rent-a-center, they're going to have paperwork. They're going to do a credit check. They ask for stuff. You're going to learn how to navigate that space when they're asking for tax ID numbers, things like that. Well, that's one thing that people will do is they'll say, do you have last 3 years tax returns? Well, we don't do tax returns. So I just contact my bank and I say, can you give me on bank letterhead, give me the gross deposits for the last 3 years, and then sign it with your title as branch manager, whatever it is. I need that piece of paper. I'll send that over to those people looking for it. They can look at my gross deposits. It works. I do that. How do we set up a private consultation with you? You can go to the website under counsel assistance. You'll drop down, you'll see private consultation. it's $450. Click on it, and then we'll talk for at least an hour. Oh, I thought my phone was going to die. I bet you my phone's going to die. If listen, if my phone dies or whatever it is on YouTube, be sure to yeah, I'll check out on YouTube. We're gonna end it at the top of the hour. So be sure to like and subscribe because that does something that I don't know what that does, but be sure to do that because that's what everybody says when they're on YouTube. And because most people that watch these things aren't subscribed. So if you subscribe, then a cookie drops out of above my bed at night, and I get to eat cookies in the middle of the night when you like and subscribe. So that's what I'm making up about it. Maybe it was my wife dropping the cookies, but I'm not sure. Anyway, I thought it was because people like and subscribe. So we'll drop out in about 5 minutes on live here. So if you want to go to the website and come on over here, we'll wrap up over there, and that'll be cool. I don't want to do too long. Let's see. Someone says when you discharge credit debt, are able to keep the company from closing the credit line. Listen, when we help you discharge debt, we're going to make sure that it's clear that you're not addicted to credit. Most people are addicted to credit, okay? And so the banks handle it like an addiction, okay? So when you're ready to give up the heroin, the credit heroin, then we'll pull you out of debt and you won't have to worry about that credit score. But when everybody is paying me and doing my passport process, you'll have the high Destination Freedom score. When you're not giving me money and stuff like that, you'll have a very low credit score with Destination Freedom. So you want a higher score so you give me more money, and that way we don't want to serve people that don't have money. Okay? So that's what we do at Destination Freedom. So be sure to remember that the Destination Freedom score is your identity. And so you should identify and protect the identity so that I can make more money. That's what the credit score is all about. So no, you don't want to care about the credit score. You can be solvent and actually have cash in your pocket. That'll be good. Have you helped clients? We have lots of clients in California. Will you help us rescind getting Social Security? Well, we'll. There's no rescinding Social Security. You'll be just all done with Social Security. You don't have to do anything with that. And I don't know what PBGC pensions. If you're getting a pension from the government, if they're already pulling out tax and all that, you might have to change that paperwork wise. But if it's coming from the government on some level, then you may be creating a tax liability for yourself. It may not be for you, but then again, you may still do that, knowing that that's a risk that you have, and you're playing that out. But again, it's a risk on your part. We recommend all in or all out, not both. How would this impact a person on Medicare? It's not going to impact anything on Medicare, but that's a government benefit. That has taxable. IRS could easily see. Let me see. When receiving Medicaid, you are a U.S. citizen, but when it comes to paying taxes, you're not. It's definitely an all-in. It's welfare from the federal government. Pay your taxes and just get welfare. Stay in that jurisdiction, but either all in or all out. It's a hard thing running out of liquid. All right. I got about 2 minutes here. I'm gonna let you go on, not you in the room here, so just hang on here in our call here. But I'm gonna let YouTube go. Thanks so much for being on. You can always go to the DestinationFreedom.org website and find out when we're gonna do our next one. It's a good possibility next week we'll do this live again, and maybe it'll be different, but it might sound the same way. So hope you enjoy it. We'll talk to you guys next time. We'll see you soon. And there you go.